G'day guys, it's Jay here from Journey of a Whitefeather and a chat with Jay says Jay and Jackie, but Jackie can't be here today, so we're here with my great friend from Brisbane, Vegas, Mr. Danny Searle, another Australian, another one where the kangaroos are, ladies and gentlemen. All the Americans love the kangaroo stories. They go, do kangaroos live in your backyard? Absolutely they do. Absolutely.
Well, koalas, where I live, koalas live in my backyard.
Hey, there you go. There you go. So we've got bears in Canada, and we've got the kangaroos and koalas here. But I've met this great man over here, Danny. He's a counsellor. He's a published author. He is also a public speaker, but he's been on his spiritual journey for all his life pretty much, and he has a great book that it's coming out. I think it has come out or is been coming out called The Ascension. Now, for me, ascending into the spiritual world, connecting with the universe, connecting with the ground, because we are being, in my belief, we're being disconnected from the earth. And now, with people like this great man here, we're getting reconnected, understanding that the grounding, the Kundalini effect, if you want to go into that, looking at the universal power, connecting to the above, and basically getting everyone aware of what's going on and also aware of their power. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, great to be here. Thank you very much.
No worries. Well, the basic, as you know, we talk about you. It's all about you. So you want to give us a little bit of a rundown about yourself. What do the viewers want to know about the great Danny Searle? As I said, I've seen him on your Instagram, and he does some really good stuff. We'll talk about a bit later. Tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Yeah, well, my background, I've had a very varied sort of existence on this planet, if you might like. So I was brought up in an Irish Catholic family, but I realised by the age of 15 that Catholicism, at least, was not the way to find the truth or the light. So I moved away from that. I then studied, comparable religious studies. I looked at all of them, all the big ones, and realised that the only way to find a spiritual path is to go within. You don't need a priest or anyone for that matter to show you your relationship with God or the universe, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
And I believe that all religions have some basis of truth in them, but they're not all correct, if you know what I mean. And so but they're there for a reason as well. So I've written 3 books where I'm trying to tell the human story. So the first 2 books is The Truth Chronicles Part 1, Secrets of the Soul. So I talk about what is God, where did it come from, how did God...
Can we get that one again? Can we get that one again there, Danny?
So it's The Truth Chronicles, Book 1, which is Secrets of the Soul. So that talks about your soul, where it resides, what happens when you die, what happens when you're reborn.
Yep.
But then I also go into human evolution, where I go into ancient history, because that's one of my other specialties, where I talk about the Anunnaki and how they came to Earth. This is a beings from another planet in the solar system.
Yep.
And then the second part of that book is sort of focused on, basically the human aspect of living. First part is spiritual, second part is the human, but how they marry together.
Yep.
Then the next book, I'm trying to tell a story to how we got to this point now. So this is The Truth Chronicles Book 2, Secrets of the Illuminati. And so this is why I have a very strong...
Here we go. There's a catchword. Oh, yeah, I know about that one. Don't you worry.
Yeah, well, that book got me into a lot of trouble. So I published that in 2015. And I was, long story short, I won't go into the whole where's and wherefores, but essentially the ATO took away my ABN, my tax file number, and drained my bank account. This is before anyone had heard of being cancelled or, debanked and all that. This is 2015, only because there's 3 chapters in that book where I just tell the truth and they don't like it. And it all has to do with what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now, with the Zionists, essentially, where I expose the Zionists. I call them fake Jews because that's what they are. They're not real Jews, right? And I talked all about that. And they rang me up, basically said, remove those chapters and we'll forget everything. And I went, no, not doing it. And then they took everything away from me. So I managed to crawl my way back through a lot of help from friends. And then I put The Truth Chronicles, because there's going to be 5 in that series. But then I got a message, if you want to call it, from above to write a book about ascension, because I've been talking about ascension on my YouTube channel since 2010. And then suddenly, all these people just in the last few years have jumped on the bandwagon and claim to be experts in ascension and everything. And I'm like, not really. So I wrote a book about it. But what the book is called it's called Ascension, a Step-by-Step Guide.
Okay.
Because one of the things that, there's two parts to ascension. One, there's the mass ascension where a majority of people will go. But I had so many people contacting me saying, I'm done, I'm finished, I want to go now. How do I do it? And so what I basically give them is all of my understanding and knowledge from reading ancient scripts, particularly with Thoth, right, in ancient Egypt, whose real name is Nigashida.
I was going to say the Egyptians, they talk about the Thanagarians. They make a bit of, sorry to cut you off, but we talk about my experience with that being a comic book freak is basically in a couple of the episodes of the Justice League of America. They're back in the time about where the Thanagarians, Hawkgirl and Hawkman were I guess were the king and queen of that. So mate, it really makes funny sense when you talk about that, because it's still portrayed in our comic books and in our cosplay community, our superhero community.
Yeah. Well, one of the terms that gets thrown around, which I explain in the book, is Merkaba. And that's an ancient Egyptian term. It's 3 words, Merkaba. And it basically means light being or a light ship.
Okay,
and so what I've got is, well, in the book it explains how to create this Merkaba, but it's not easy. And I go right into that. If it was easy, everyone would do it, because you have to understand we're ascending to the 5th dimension, which is a dimension of love. That's what it is. It's a very high vibration. So they can't allow anyone in that's still carrying any form of fear, right? Any sort of fear, thoughts, whatever, no one can basically enter that realm. So part of what I teach in the book is you have to learn to purge all fear. And once you've done that, you can activate the Merkaba. Once you've activated the Merkaba, you've now got the means to basically ascend. And I explained it on my YouTube channel, which is called Path to Ascension, right, on YouTube. So, and I've got videos on there. And I think I've called it Mechanics of Ascension. I've got everything broken up into playlists, right? So it's easy to find stuff.
Well, what we'll do, Danny, we'll get some. I'll get you to put that in the chat for me, or send it to me as an email, or whatever, or there, and then I can put them in on the chat. On when I make the video, when this video goes live, all that stuff will be on there for you.
Awesome. Okay.
Fantastic.
So anyway,
can I just quickly talking about the ascension? I believe I'm in the ascension process now, and I am releasing all my fears and stuff like that. And it's really weird the last year that I went through the twin flame awakening, which is for me the pure spiritual awakening, which you probably already know. That was my leading into the ascension process. And I feel that, especially opening up your third eye, I get lots of messages. I feel like I'm on that path. I also feel very protected as well. I know I've got to feel it's always it's an ongoing journey, don't get me wrong, but I feel that I'm very much on that journey. So do you want to give us a little bit of an idea of people who, because if people go, I'm spiritual, I'm this, and a good friend of mine, Greg Riley, said this is where it's a little bit toxic in some ways, because people's egos get involved. And I know yourself, you're not, we're not in that path of doing that. We're trying to help people, but you can see where I'm going with that, yeah?
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, look, it's simple. I say to people, do you want to ascend? They go, yeah. Okay, can you right now, here and now, walk away from everything you own, or your loved ones, your pets, everything? Can you just walk away right now if I asked you to? Most can't. And I'll say, well, you're not ready for ascension. Because ascension is you have to detach from the earth plane, right? Okay. So anything that you're attached to anchors you, yeah?
Yep.
Which includes, material things, family members, because once you get to the understanding that as humans, we're a soul inhabiting a human body, and that the souls of the other people and animals that you associate with, right, they're on their own journey. They're doing their own thing, right? And you will meet them again. Don't worry about that, because this is not home. The earth plane is not home. It's somewhere where we come to train, essentially, right?
Okay.
To figure stuff out. And then we go back home. Home is the spirit world. But what's different with ascension is you're not dying and going to spirit. You're leaving this physical body behind. You're taking on a light body and you're going up a dimension or 2 dimensions into the 5th dimension, right? So to do that, you must purge all the physical, hanger-oners.
Is that like practicing samadhi? Would that be fair? Is that something similar?
Oh, I'm not that au fait with samadhi. I'm not really sure what they teach, but
we've heard it. Yeah, I might have to give you the video to give you a look, because I think what you're saying is very, very similar. I think it's on the. I think what from my understanding, as I said, we're all learning every single day, and is basically samadhi's controlling the ego and being disconnected from your ego, controlling it in a way where you're just working within the heart space. And then you're moving up from there. I think that's where the ascension process starts. There are
correct.
Look, there's definitely there's definitely going to be things come up. You got connections and fears and all those subconscious program, which is why I work in the shadow a lot. I'm the master of the shadow. They call me that because I love all the dark stuff. But understanding that, and then what you're saying is you got that process, and it's a never-ending battle. It's not a never-ending school of teaching, in my belief.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. We come here to learn. That's why you come to the earth. Everyone. That's everyone. Even, the gurus and everything, they all come here to learn, to experience the physical realm. And that in itself is a learning process. But anyway, I was going to say on my Mechanics of Ascension, that YouTube channel, I've got videos about it where I explain what the actual mechanics are on a physical level. So this is not all woo, right? A lot of people think it's all woo. It's not. So on your cells, you've got cells in your body with little antennas on them, some of them for insulin, some of them for hormones, right? And they detect things in your body. And when they find something that's for that particular, say, insulin, it grabs it, it pulls it into the cell, and it processes it. Now, on the cell, there's antenna for a thing that I call synchrotron radiation. And this comes from the supergalactic wave, basically. So in the center of the universe, the galaxy, is a giant sort of sun. Think of it like that. They call it the galactic center, and it glows like a big sun. And that is the consciousness of this galaxy that we're in now. And its consciousness is transferred to each star that's in the system, and then those stars transfer that information to the occupied planets within its solar system, right? So the wave it sends out during this ascension process, which happens every 26,000 years, right? One loop of the universe.
And we're in it now. We're in it now, aren't we?
Correct.
We are in it now. Yeah, go. Keep going. I've got more questions. Keep going.
Right. So it sends out the supergalactic wave. Within that is what we call synchrotron radiation. And there's antennas on your cells that are designed to pick up that light radiation. It's light, right?
Yep.
So if you're someone that meditates every day, that leads a clean life, keeps yourself as pure as possible, those antennas stick up on the cell like that. Otherwise, they're laying down.
Okay.
They stick up. So when that light wave comes, they're ready there to receive it. Once the light hits that antenna, it goes into the cell. It unlocks the 12-strand DNA that you've got buried there, which science calls 97% of your DNA, they call junk DNA, because they don't know what it is. It's divine DNA. So that DNA, once it's activated, it changes you into 12-strand DNA, basically a crystalline body. It transfers your body into a light machine, a Merkaba, right? And so once you're in that Merkaba, to someone looking on, it looks like a light ship, buzzing around with a little person inside. And just by a thought, you can will yourself to anywhere on the planet. But once you've reached that point, you're now ready. You've raised your vibration high enough. You've got enough of this light in you, and you've got the 12-strand DNA. That's your key to get into the 5th dimension, right? But to get to that, like I'm saying, you've got to purge all the fears, no fear, no attachments, things like that, and meditate regularly to raise your vibration. You got to change your diet. I talk about all that in the book, how to change your diet and things like that. And eventually you get those antennae to come up and they're ready then for the light to come through and trigger it all.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, well, this is how you do it on a personal level. And I stress that in the book. Now, there will be a mass ascension, but that is up in the air because at least 25% of humanity has to be on the same wavelength, if you know what I mean. They have to be on the same vibration.
Because Jackie and I talk a lot about frequency and vibration.
Yeah, so do I.
So, well, then I don't have to say any more. Keep going. We get it.
Yeah.
Just quickly, guys. It's got frequency and vibration. Yeah. I always look at people who are really happy and really connected with what they're doing. You got a nice frequency, and then you bring it down with negative vibrations. So you just look at how you react to certain situations, certain people. That's the easiest way to describe without going too much into it. Just have a look at how you react to certain things without going, flat out into what's going on. Yeah. Anyway, keep going.
Right. So right now what's going on in the world, and this is why I talk a lot about it, what's going on in the Middle East and things like that, is the dark side trying to stop the mass ascension, right? That's what they're trying to stop. They've done it in the past. Every time there was meant to be the mass ascension, they would start a war because the act of killing creates that negative vibration, right, which they thrive on. But what it does, it stifles the energy we need to ascend. So what we're facing now is the final battle, I believe, right? I've got no doubts about that. I was one of the first people.
That's World War III. Yeah, you're talking World War III. He's right.
Yes.
It's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual war.
Yes.
All of us agree on that.
Yeah. It's a spiritual war for sure.
Yes.
Right? Because basically what, I've been trying to explain to a lot of fundamentalist Christians that back Zionism, to say that essentially God or the universe does not take sides, right? Doesn't favor one child over another. What God gave us was free will. This is why there's wars and pestilence and famine and things in the world, because of human free will. And God is not going to impose on that free will. That was a gift that God gave to humans, right? It was free will. So the free will, the test right now, God is testing us right now by saying, you are all my creation, right? And so when one of my creation destroys another of the creation, who do you support? Do you support my creation, or do you support that which destroys my creation? See, so the dark side cannot create, it can only imitate. And this is why we're seeing the rise of robots. Robots are their pathetic attempt to imitate humans and dogs and things. And then we've got these men dressing up as women with this pathetic attempt to basically pretend that they're women because they can't create. The dark side cannot create. It can only imitate. That's all it can do, right? Where creation, the light creates. So the light created the beings in Palestine or anywhere else in the world, and the dark side are trying to destroy God's creation because they're jealous.
It's
right?
Really...
This is why they called Lucifer jealous, because he couldn't create. He could only imitate.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'll tell you what, it's a funny thing. The first vision I get is, I guess you watched Charmed, haven't you? You've seen the show Charmed?
Oh, probably years ago, I think.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the amount of messages in that show. What you're saying, amazingly, was come across in that show a lot. And I've always said that it's they got a lot of universal spiritual laws and lessons and the stuff we've been talking about just before. Like you look at, and just the first thing that came to me was when you've got an entity trying to stop free will, and the dark side and the light side have to work together to get rid of this entity because you want free will, dark, light, whatever, masculine, whatever it may be. Everything yin yang, whatever it may be, trying to stop that bond, because you can't stop that bond, in my belief, anyway. So it's just these little. It's just talking to yourself, talking to other people. Just bring these things up. I think there's a lot of messages that come through Main the TV shows especially. I don't watch mainstream media at all, pretty much, except for the cricket. Cricket's
Yeah.
enjoyable, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of lot of messages within mainstream media. Keep going. Sorry, Mo, this is all your time. Go for it. Keep going. So
No, that's
basically,
all right. But the movies is what we call predictive programming. They deliberately tell us what they're planning and what they're going to do. But to counter that, within the movie world, there are the white hats as well that try and bring out positive messages like what you're talking about. So yeah, they're forever trying to warn us and tell us. But the average person is locked in a zombie state almost, a half asleep state, especially when they're watching TV because of the flicker rates and things. So they don't take it on,
The
unless
Sims.
they're already.
Have you seen the show? Have you seen the game The Sims? I
I
always
haven't
say,
seen it.
but it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying.
Is it? Yeah.
Or it's
I
just,
call them the NPCs, non-player characters, right? They
Yeah,
just
well,
go
there you
along, get the jab, do what they're told, that sort of thing. So anyway, 2024, I've been saying for a long time, if people want to know stuff, I've got two Instagram channels. So one of them I just do lives on usually once a week. I try and do a live, which is a Q&A. So people can ask me questions and I'll answer them and stuff.
Yep.
But I also give an update about what's going on in the world, what news they should be focusing on or what to look out for. And hope to give people hope that, that it's not all bad. It's not all dark. One of the things I hear from all the time are what I call nihilists, right? They're the ones that, what's the point? The world's corrupt. We might as well just all die. I'm like, we didn't come here to die. We certainly didn't come here to give up, right? We came here to fight, and we have to pick a side. And this is what we're being asked right now. Pick a side. You're either for creation or you're for anti-creation. It's as simple as that. That's what it is. That's the spiritual and physical lesson or choice that you've got. So it's a choice. We come down to a choice.
Well,
I like to.
Sorry, keep going. Sorry, I just dropped out. Sorry about that. Keep going.
Yeah, well, no, I was just going to say, I like to remind people, I've been in this game for a long time. I started publicly speaking in 1995, right? Started with the UFO cover-ups and things like that, and then changed direction and moved into this, but that's where I started in 1995. And so I've been looking at this stuff for a long time. I have not personally seen so many people waking up, coming on board than what I have in the last 3 to 4 years.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
Phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
It is.
So when people say to me, what's the point? I'm like, what are you talking about? What's the point? We've got more people coming on board now, online with this, starting to follow, starting to listen, starting to spread the message. This is the most exciting time to be on the planet I've ever seen in my life, right?
We need a lot of leaders. We need a lot of leaders, Danny. There's a lot of leaders. I mean, I believe that. Even when I started my pure spiritual awakening back in 2019, I believe I was like a chosen one. And when I did join full-time purpose community and met Cortez, Diana, Sarah, Jackie, and so many great people like yourself, I think we're the chosen ones. I just really believe that we're here to lead this choice.
What I believe is that, a few thousand years ago, we had a big battle with the dark versus the light in a place called Atlantis. And I believe at that battle in Atlantis, we lost, right? We had our asses handed to us by the dark side. So all of us right now who are true leaders, we're in Atlantis and we've all put our hand up to come back and have another crack at them. And this time we have to win. That's what I honestly believe, right? Because everything changed after Atlantis fell. That's when what we call zero time. Okay. And so this is when they implemented time on Earth. And how we know we're getting close to the end zone is because they keep doing shorter increments of time. They introduce the concept of time. So when they first had it, they started with 24 hours in a day, then hours, then minutes, then seconds. Now we're talking nanoseconds. They keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Now we're in the nanoseconds. You can't get any smaller, so guess what? The clock has finished. Now we're basically ready to go into the final battle. That's the way I see it. I think it'll all happen around 2025, maybe halfway through 2025.
This is actually, this is spiritual. This is purely spiritual in your belief, Danny. Like it's a spiritual.
No, this is both.
Right.
It's both.
Okay.
So I think, look, I'll just be honest. This is just a theory. This is not a fact of anything, right? But I use a lot of my data points to bring me to this.
Yep.
And my intuition. I believe what's going on in the Middle East is the Zionists will nuke Tel Aviv, right? They'll nuke Israel. And they'll do that as a sacrifice. They need another Holocaust to basically justify all their genocide and stuff like that, right? They'll blame it on Iran. But what I think hopefully will happen is that every single nuclear device in the world, including power plants and stuff like that, when they melt down, they've got a isotope or something in them that can be detected, and they know where it came from. They know that it was a Russian bomb or an American bomb or whatever bomb, right? So I'm hoping that scientists will be able to detect the radiation cloud and tell us it's an American bomb, because America basically funds Israel, right? So Israel is America's attack dog in the Middle East. That's what it is. So if they drop a bomb there, it'll be an American-made bomb, but and the reason why I'm saying this is because they're cleaning out Ukraine at the moment. Ukraine used to have a kingdom called Khazaria, and I talk about this in the second book. Khazaria is where the Jews came from, right? So the modern-day Jews with blue eyes and pale skin all came from Ukraine. And then in the 7th century, the Russian tribe, the Rus tribe, came down, who were Christians, and they ran them out of town because they were basically sacrificing children and doing all this sort of stuff. But in the meantime, they converted to Judaism, right? Okay. And so then they were pushed out, and they went into Germany, mostly Poland, and the Slav countries, Yugoslavia and places like that. Okay. And so Benjamin Netanyahu's real name is Mikowski. That's his real name. He changed his name to Netanyahu in 1978, right? Because he wanted to sound more Jewish. He picked a name out of the Jewish Torah book, the Torah that they write in. So his real name is Mikowski. All of these so-called Jews are not Jews. They're Khazarian Jews, what we call Khazarian Jews, right? Which means they're from Europe. And so this is why they're cleaning out Ukraine, because they're all going to mass migrate back to the homeland, Khazaria, but they have to leave maybe 1 million or so in the Middle East to have their sacrifice, because that's what they do, right? They're mass murderers. They will sacrifice it in the hope to basically blame it on Iran, which will then trigger World War III, right? That's what I think is going to happen. But what I also think is going to happen, that will be the wake-up call for humanity. When those scientists of the light come out and say, no, this was a US-made bomb, and when people realize it was a false flag, that's going to be the turning point. That's when the whole world is going to turn on these people and say, you're nothing but butchers, and we're all going to rise up our vibration and in one voice say, no more. We choose no more. No more killing, no more nothing. It's at that point the mass ascension will come. Right? Because we reach that point of unconditional love. That's what it's all about, unconditional love. And when you finally have unconditional love for all humanity, bang, you're gone. Just like that. I know it sounds simple, but that's all it takes, is one trauma bonding moment that brings the whole world together, but then we also can show compassion and unconditional love, right? And that will be our trigger point. So there's always a silver lining. And the reason why I say this, right, again, I'll talk about it in my second book, The Secrets of the Illuminati. You would have heard of the Black Death, like in Europe, the Black Death, right? The plague. Yep. So everyone thinks that was a terrible thing. But what happened was it killed rich people and poor people all the same. So suddenly there was 1 or 2 rich guys left, and there was more of the peasants left. And they sort of said, we need our crops brought in. So the peasants started to say, well, the guy up the road is going to give me $50 an acre. And then the rich guy will say, well, I'll give you $60. And this was the first time that they were able to basically negotiate with the rich people, right? Because before that, they were serfs. They didn't get paid. They just got land, because they had to pay their rent on their land and everything. And they just got enough food to eat. And so suddenly they could negotiate and, go to the next guy and say, well, he's going to give me $80 or he's going to give me $100, right? And then there were other stories like 2 sisters. This is a true story where they basically ran a sheep farm and everyone was dead. So the 2 sisters together processed all the wool, got all the wool, and everyone was desperate for wool because winter's coming. They need to knit clothes and things. So they all bought the wool. They were then able to hire more people to help them and to build their business. Anyway, what happened then is suddenly for the first time in history, first time ever, people had disposable cash. They could pay for their house, their rent, food, clothing, all the necessities, and they still had cash left over. This is what we call the middle class. That's what defines the middle class, right? So suddenly they had money to spend on other things. So they started to patronize other people that were good at science, art, mathematics, all those things. So someone like Leonardo da Vinci is basically a creature of the Renaissance. This is what we call the Renaissance.
Okay.
Where he was paid by one of the kings to basically design things for him, weapons mostly, but it's also where he did all his other stuff, right?
Okay.
Because he had the money to do it. He didn't have to worry about slaving in the fields because someone was able to keep him. They were able to keep him because for the first time in history, we had a middle class, right? So this is why not all bad things are bad. Something good came out of that. What came out of that was a Renaissance, which was an explosion of science, art, culture, music, everything exploded when the cabal, whatever you want to call them, weren't in charge anymore. The monarchies weren't in charge anymore. Humans were in control of their own direction. And so what's happened ever since, they've tried to shut us down and enslave us further. And this is what communism is. Communism is taking away the middle class, right? Because in the middle class, you've got independence. You can buy a car, you can put petrol in the car, and you can go for a holiday, or you can drive anywhere you want. Under communism, you don't own anything, right? Like Klaus Schwab told us, you'll own nothing and be happy, because they don't want you to own everything. They only want you to be on a subsistence, like serfdom. It's another form of serfdom, right? Yeah. Communism is serfdom, where you got absolute poverty or absolute rich. There's no in between, right? And this is where they're heading back. They're heading back because ever since that Renaissance period, they've been shitty as hell, right? Because they lost the good old days of feudalism. So now they're trying to bring back in what I call neo-feudalism, a new form of feudalism, which is communism. So this is the struggle that's going on right now. So we've seen when humans are given their own, direction and allowed to decide their own future, we thrive and we just create and we do wonderful things. But these assholes are always trying to lock us down, to shrink us down, and to put a boot on our neck so we can't thrive. They want to be in charge. They want to be the only ones to thrive. And that's what we're dealing with right now.
Oh, I believe that, mate. I'll tell you what. We've got about a minute and a half in this part one. I want to go into part two, so I'll send you another link. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to go and get yourself recalibrated. Mate, it's that's amazing. The knowledge is amazing. I mean, this is exactly what I do on my show is to get people and show people what they need to. You need to be heard. Everyone needs to be heard. Doesn't matter what. Yeah. I'll have anyone I can on these shows if they're going to help. If they're going to come out and help with the ascension use the word, but help with humanity and become better people. Find your purpose. Live a good life. Don't hurt people. Make sure people are healthy and happy and healthy. Everyone should be living their purpose. Everyone, the man, woman, and child should be living as better life as they could on this earth. We've got we'll go into part two very, very soon. Thank you very much, Danny. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time with part two, ladies and gentlemen, with Danny Searle. Man, what a talk, man. Jeez. I'm just sitting there going, right, this will be good. So I'm looking forward to part two. We'll be back very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Okay. Thanks.